Hello and welcome to the Service Operations Backup Assist demo. Throughout this demo we're going to run through the monitoring and reporting service which we offer. The service is based on EMC's Data Protection Advisor, and the way that we collect this data is by having a collecting agent sat on the remote network, either installed on a VM or something similar in that environment, or actually based on the actual TSM server or backup server if you're using another backup product. This information is then encrypted and then sent back across the internet to our main reporting server based in one of our data centers. Through all of this information, we then can use all the data that's been collected from the backup product to create reports, generate trending information, as well as automatically applying a bit of logic to the information that we've collected through our own created tools, which will then automatically create calls on our service desk should it be a managed environment for something like backup failures or a TSM housekeeping failure. More information on that can be found in our Backup as a Service portal demonstration. Today what we're going to have a look through is two of our main sections of our reporting software. The first section we'll look into is the emailed out reports, which will be emailed to yourself on a daily basis or weekly basis. These include server health, report cards, so you can see all of your servers for the last week, as well as unavailable files, data domain summary where it's applicable, as well as a weekly management summary, which is a very high level report that could be sent to management only on a weekly basis. There's also a dashboard access where you can log in and run your own reports over custom windows, or if there's a specific report that you're looking for, you can just log in and run it. This is the same interface which is used by the operations team to log in and monitor and diagnose issues in environments as well. So what we're going to have a look at now is the reports that get sent out on a daily basis. First up is the TSM Service Health report. At the start of this report we run through the least successful clients. You can see here a couple of our laptops have been fairly high on the failure rates. You then get a percentage of how much it has failed over, in that case, the last week. Then we do the same for the last month. We then get an overview of the TSM vitals, mainly the database log and scratch tapes. Next up is the Tsm Database Backup. This will show all of the database backups that have happened in the last day if it's a system that runs more than one database backup. We can then start to look through some of the other TSM housekeeping tasks, mainly the storage copies, which are the backup storage pools. We can see whether they've completed or failed, how much data they've backed up, where they've come from, where they're going to. We can also see that the TSM migration job, so the movement of data from disk onto the tapes, see whether they've been successful, how much data they've moved. We can also see with reclamation how much data is moved, whether they've been successful or not, and then lastly we can see if there's any offline disks or any offline drives. All of that together will give us a fairly good idea as to the running state of the actual TSM server. So next up we're going to have a look into the weekly report card. Just get that report up. In this report you can see all of the nodes down the left hand side, along with the dates of the last week along the top. In each block will be the backups that have happened on that day. Green will be successful, orange means that the backup has still been successful but has skipped some files, so these could be files that have been left open, or are things like the page file which are not possible to be backed up, and in which case need excluding. Purple means that the backup has missed, so the client has made no contact with the actual server, and then white means that there has been no backup scheduled for this period, or the backup is still running. As we scroll through we can start to see our problem clients, which ones are failing frequently. You can see that over the weekend that there are no scheduled backups for the laptops, but all of the other servers have carried on running successfully. At the bottom here we have a good example of two backups that happen in the same day. So one of these backups down here has been failing, the other one has been successful, and in which case the report will then split the cell into multiple sections, displaying the different colours. Next, the report that we're going to look at is the unavailable files report. This literally lists out all of the clients that have backed up over the last day and the file that has been missed. This helps to ensure that files that are being missed by backups are files that are being excluded, and then these can be raised as calls to get the client updated to exclude out these files, and then that makes sure that no files are being missed, and there's no surprises when a restore is required. The next report that we're going to look at is the data domain summary. This gives an overview of the health of the data domain to make sure that there's enough free space, to make sure that all the disks are in a healthy status. It gives you an overview of the deduplication ratio and also the amount of performance that's being put through it, so you can ensure that your data domain is sufficiently sized. Unfortunately, this box isn't replicated, but if it was, you would then get information about whether the replications were consistent and in sync. Lastly, the report that we're going to look into is the weekly management report. This is an amalgamation of a few of the other reports, primarily between the report card and the TSM server health one, to give you just a weekly snapshot, ideal for management, as to how the health of the backups are. Firstly, it runs through the weekly report card, where you can easily identify strings of failures or strings of issues, basically. After that, we'll go through into the least successful clients for the last week and the last month, making them easy to pick up on what sort of percentage failure rate they've been failing on, and then also the amount of data backed up, which is also very useful for sizing, help to give an idea of how fast the environment's growing as well. Lastly, what we're going to run through is the dashboard login that we'll have access to. Once going through the login process, it's as simple as browsing to a web link, putting in your username and password, and then you'll be presented with your own custom dashboard, which provides this information that we can see here. So we can see all the job summaries for the last day, we can see the last week and the last month. We can also see what our contract growth has been like. So at the start of the contract we were at a set of terabytes, which was 27 terabytes. We can see that ours has actually decreased by nearly a quarter of a terabyte, and that's probably due to the 6 nodes that have been removed. Down the far left hand side we can see the backup report card for the last week as was being emailed out into the reports. We can also see the amount of data that's being backed up. We've now got a success rate for the last week, as well as the amount of restores that have been run and their success rate over the last week. Once you've got this dashboard, what you can then start to do is expand it out. So clicking into a set field will then bring up that report specifically. What we can then do is then drill into that a bit further, which will pick us up some more information. Should these have been failed backups, what we could have done is right click and pick up the errors for those reports. What we also notice is from the left hand side is we can then expand out our TSM server. We can start to pick up information about the network adapters, the file systems, the actual physical underlying disks that create those file systems, as well as information about TSM and its other elements, including clients, storage pools, libraries. Should any one of these specific sections want to run a specific report, simple as clicking on them, choosing the window that you want to run the report against, or alternatively you can put in a completely customized window, right clicking the object that you're after, and then you can easily select what report that you want to run. And that brings us to an end of our demonstration of our reporting services. Should you have any questions or wish to see more, please feel free to get in touch. All of the contact details are on the website at tectrade.com. Thank you very much for listening.